Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Myths and Meaning, a Storyteller's Hearth. And here we are under the beautiful, beautiful flower moon. And true to its word, as flowers abound in the Shire of Devon, flowers everywhere. Bees are happy. The air smells delectable. Beautiful time to be alive. So I'm going to take you to the Emerald Isle. I'm going to take you to the great isle that is Ireland. And I'm going to tell you the tale of Etain. Etain, she was the girl of the Truth to Danann. The old, old gods of Ireland. And those old people, they didn't live in houses of stone or thatch. They lived in the green hills, the hollow hills, the shea. Now Etain, she was so, so beautiful, with her hair the colour of wild gauze, and her skin, it was white as the crests of the Atlantic waves, as white as cotton. And she caught the heart of whoever laid eyes on her. Whoever saw her, they fell for her, they fell in love with her. But she also caught the attention of the fairy folk, and very much so. Now Midri, he was a prince amongst the fairy folk. And the minute he laid eyes on her, he knew that he loved Etain. With a heart that was so wide, wide open, and a love that was so, so true. But jealousy, it's always there, isn't it? It's like a weed that grows in the dark. So Midri's first wife, Fúnach, she saw them together, and immediately her heart, it became a heart of stone. So Fúnach, she was a powerful, powerful druidess, with many, many spells of the good, but also she carried many spells of the dark, dark magic. So after months and months of courtship of pure, pure beauty and joy, and the eventual marriage of Etain and Midri, which was celebrated throughout the land, there was to be a great gathering in the grand hall of the wise, and all the fairy folk and the gods, they attended. So Etain and Midri, they arrived and walked into the centre of the hall, with everyone around admiring their beauty and their love and their truth. But as quick as you like, that druidess, that jealous druidess, she leapt from the crowd, and with a wand of quickened wood, she struck the girl into the heart, much to the astonishment of the gathering. And at first, Etain, she felt the pain in her heart, and she stood strong. But she felt herself weaken. She felt herself get weaker and weaker, and that druidess, she walked away, satisfied. And poor Etain, she became a pool of grey, grey water upon the floor of this great hall. And as the druidess set down the water, it became a worm. And Etain, she creeped and creeped and creeped and wriggled away into the dark, dark corner of the great hall to hide. And when she was nestled there for a wee while, she started to grow wings. And the wings, they grew and grew and grew, and then eventually she blossomed into a beautiful, beautiful butterfly. A great shimmering scarlet and gold butterfly. And when she flapped her wings, they hummed like a silver harp. Now some say she was the size of a person's head. Some say she was bigger. And others, they do say that she was much smaller. But Midri, he saw what had happened to his beautiful, beautiful wife, and what became of her. And as Etain, she flew through the skylight of the great hall, Midri followed, and he ran. And he ran, and he ran, and he ran, and he followed her over hills, and over mountains, and over glen to glen. For that druidess, she knew what he was doing. She ignored and let her rest. She called upon her dark magic again, for the wind to blow that poor little creature away across the face of Ireland. And poor Midri, he had to give up his love to the wind. So for 7 years, Etain, she never knew the touch of a leaf, nor the shelter of a branch. She was blown first to the Giant's Causeway in the north, where those basalt columns looked like frozen pipes, and the spray of the cold Atlantic soaked her wings until they were heavy as lead. But the wind, it didn't stop. It whirled us south over the Wicklow Mountains, where the mist was so thick that you couldn't tell the earth from the sky. And she spent a winter there, lost in the heather, shivering under the moon. And the gales, they pushed her west over the cliffs of Moho, and she saw the great, great birds nesting in the rock face, and she cried out to them with her humming winds, with her wings the sound of a silver harp. But those birds, they couldn't hear her. They couldn't hear her in the roar of the waves. She was blown over the Burren, the grey, stony desert where the flowers grow in the cracks of the limestone. She smelled the gentian and the wild thyme, but the wind pulled her away before she could even taste the nectar. She spent years as a prisoner in the air, a bright spark of scarlet and gold in the world of grey, grey storms. And finally, after 7 long years, the wind grew tired, just near the banks of the River Bann in Ulster. And with its final gust, it blew Etain through the window of a great hall of a chieftain named Etain. And down she fell, and she spiraled and spiraled, exhausted and tired and cold. And she landed into a golden goblet of wine held by the chieftain's wife. And this woman, she was a hearty drinker, and she took the wine and she gulped it all down, butterfly and all. And that was the end of Etain. But it was also the beginning of a girl. So 9 months later, a baby was born. And they named her Etain. And again she grew up with the hair the colour of a wild gorse flower, and the skin like the spray of the Atlantic Ocean, white, white as cotton. Beautiful, beautiful for all to behold. But she was a mortal woman now. She was amongst the people. But the she, they don't forget their own. So as a young woman, she eventually married a high king at the hill of Tara, at the seat of all the kings. And they went on to live in a palace of thatch and oak. And she thought she was happy. Until the day a stranger came through the door. And that stranger, he was Madeira. He'd come from the hollow hills to find his lost and true love. And he offered the king to play a game of chess. And said to the king, if I win, I want only to hold the queen. Well, the king agreed, thinking it was a small price to pay and he's going to win anyway because he was a chess master. But as I've told you, Madeira, or Midra, he was a man of true magic, and now he was actually a fairy king. And he toyed with the king. He toyed with him until he dealt the game won. And the king, he granted the forfeit. And in came the beautiful Etain, to be embraced by the stranger, the fairy king. But as Midri took Etain in his arms, the memories of those seven long, hard years, they came to her. She felt the cold cliffs, the mountain mist, the humming music. It all came rushing back to her. She looked at Midri, and she knew him. She loved him, she felt him, she was him. But they didn't walk out of the door of that hall. They didn't run. But they rose up into the air. And if you'd been standing in that courtyard that day, you wouldn't have seen a man and a woman. You would have seen two magnificent white swans, joined by a chain of red gold flying towards the sunset. And they flew out and they flew over the Shannon River and back to the secret places where the years don't count and the wind never bites. And Etain, she became the white lady of the she, of the fae, a guardian of the greening and a guardian of the flowering of the earth under our flower moon.